I will defeat the Powerpuff Girls, or my name isn't Mojo Projo.
Doran the Siege Tower versus Carmen, partners Keleth and Esior, and partners Ravos and Tymna. Partners seem to have become quite popular again on Magic Online. We have 3 lands. We don't have all of our colours, but we can buy time with a Toxic Deluge quite early on, so only 1 Treefolk available to us in our opening hand, and we can't even cast it. But we will try this. We draw on our first turn, get into another Treefolk that we actually can cast. And there we see Savannah, certainly going to keep that on top. The life game player plays out a Soul Sister, the Guide of Souls. And a Lotus Petal on turn 1 allows an Esior into play on turn 1. Seems as though it might be an idea to go for this Toxic Deluge if players want to try and go really fast. We're not doing anything else, so we might as well hold up Souls to Plowshares. The 1/1 swung in to the right, and now we see Keleth, so yeah, very much playing into a board wipe here. Esior swings in to the left and puts a plus counter on it with Keleth. Still not seeing anything from Carmen yet. And we have a Heartwood Storyteller, so yeah, could go for Ironfoot Warlord or Ironroot Warlord. Our commander's 5 toughness as well. We might have to put 5 or more life into Toxic Deluge, meaning that our creatures won't survive it, simply for the Esior. So I think I'll just throw down a forest and we'll hold up the Abzan Charm. Probably just going to draw cards with that. There was a Meanest Tirith laid down here, by the way, followed by a Fetid Heath on this turn, so hopefully see the Tymna here ready to destroy with a Toxic Deluge. And there it is, so he's going to get to draw a card here. Gains a life and an energy when that enters, and swings in down the middle. Hall of Heliod's Generosity and an Arcane Signet this turn. So I might be holding up protection. Goes through to combat straight away. Esior goes to the left again. And we get the first attack with what will be a 2/2 Keleth. Enlightened Tutor from the Carmen player. Going to stack the top of his library before his turn starts. And shows us a Sol Ring. Uses his white mana to play the Sol Ring. And then plays another Tutor. Demonic Tutor might be for a land. After the Tutor, plays Scrubland straight away, so not sure if he was trying to throw us off track there, but has 1 mana floating, so could do something for 2. He does, plays a Mesmeric Orb, so we could just not tap down our lands here, but I'm not going to play into the fact that we're going to mill. Vast majority of cards from your deck you're not going to see during most games anyway, so we won't worry about mill. Draw 2 and lose 2 with the Abzan Charm. Single land here would be ideal. We do draw into a forest, and we mill with the Mesmeric Orb, untapping 3 lands, mills us for 3. So there's another land, a Last March of the Ents, that feels bad. Losing more card draw with Signing Blood as well. And then draw into another Treefolk, so we're getting into them eventually. Drew into Bosque Banneret previously, and now the Great Oak Guardian. So let's just drop a forest here. We'll be able to hold up Swords to Plowshares. We'll go Toxic Deluge, and should be safe just naming 5. Maybe they'll be able to buff at instant speed, but I won't play around that. It is noteworthy that we're likely seeing Carmen next turn, especially after a board wipe, but Swords to Plowshares on that should be okay. And yeah, we left it a turn too late apparently, so get the Swan Song out of our opponent's hand. Obviously we could have done it the turn previously, but I wanted to wrap up some more stuff in the board wipe. This might encourage a wipe from another player though. Could also be that they've got free counter magic in their hand if they're willing to roll out their commanders too quickly. So maybe have Force of Will or Fierce Guardianship, something like that. Oriok Champion has Pro Black and Red, and gains more life for the creatures entering. Then another creature, that is Exorcist. I haven't seen that one before. So 2 and tap destroys a black creature, and they gain a couple of life, so the Guide of Souls is going to start becoming relevant, putting plus counters and flying onto a creature, likely puts it on Tymna. So Tymna goes to the right, and Guide of Souls goes down the middle. Alright, says yes to Guide of Souls, but puts its ability on itself. So that is now a 3/4 flyer, and ends the turn with 7 cards in hand. Thrumming Bird now for the other partner player, able to proliferate these plus counters. 3 cards in hand, so he can't have too much interaction left. Might be able to continue to protect his board though. 3/5 to the left, 2/2 to the right, and they are buffed up by plus counters when they attack. As we thought, we see Carmen, Krill Sky Marcher, so not going to make use of Swords to Plowshares onto that. I think I'll just hold that for an imminent threat down the line. We mill some more, a Sol Ring, a land, and Anguished Unmaking. And that is a Lush Portico, so we could surveil something away, but I think I want to double spell here. Bosk Banneret will discount our Treefolk, so I could go for something like the Tilling Treefolk. So let's throw down the Banneret, gaining our opponent more life with the champion. And I don't suppose there's any rush for us to get into the Tilling Treefolk. We've got lands to make, so let's just go for the Iron Root, and we can swing in for 5 damage if we get Doran down next turn. And we'll play the tap land here. I'm obviously not going to hold up Swords to Plowshares here because we've already used the mana. Surveil a 3-tree city. Our graveyard's going to get exiled. Yeah, we could go for a 3-mana Doran, a 2-mana Tilling Treefolk, and hold up Swords to Plowshares mana next turn. So let's throw this into the graveyard and we can look at something new next turn. I'll hold back the 2-2 flyer. Temple of the False God coming down on turn 5, so can tap for mana. Exorcist decides to blow up the Carmen over here. Have to be wary of this thing. Maybe this is worth the Swords to Plowshares if we're getting down Doran next turn, because he does seem to be actively blowing up commanders. I'm just noticing as well that he seems to have gone for Cleric Tribal. He's got the Rot Lung Reanimator here, and yep, that has Carmen Scoop as I expected. Scoops to the first piece of interaction he sees. We see a Shadow Cleric, so when it deals combat damage to a player, destroy an enchantment. Guide of Souls, now with flying, goes into the right against the 1-1 flyer. The Tymna goes in over there as well, then pulls back, and just swings in with Guide of Souls. So draws up to 7 again. 4-6 Esior swinging in towards us now, Thrumming Bird to the left. So that becomes a 5-7, there's no first strike to consider or anything, so the proliferate will happen after combat damage. We're risking seeing a board wipe here, but I think I'll take the damage and wait for this to get a sword equipped to it or something, and hopefully we'll still be able to block with the bird. So I'll risk taking the commander damage. Okay, there's a 6 for us. So we can make use of the graveyard we've been milling. It's only permanents that we care about there, though. We could grab a Sol Ring, I suppose. Anyway, I think we have to go for swords onto this because we're going to be the only one with black creatures. Our opponent's shown us already that he's going to be quite liberal with that. And then I think we're still going for Doran and the Tilling Treefolk. I think we're going to be struggling against our opponents here, but I'll try and make a little bit of a difference in swinging in some decent damage. Noteworthy that this has pro-black, so it will be able to block our commander. Let's play the Tilling Treefolk. Argument to be made for the Heartwood Storyteller, but I'll grab the lands back before they inevitably get exiled from the graveyard. Priority being held up by the Azorius player. So I'll grab a fetch and the 3-tree city back from the bin with that. And now we can go for 5, 6, 7 and 8 damage into the left. I doubt there's any blocks going to be made. So taking him down to 31. And if we can actually keep these Treefolk in play, which might be a big ask, then might be able to generate some mana with 3-tree city. I don't have high hopes for this particular land in this particular deck because it's not too easy to litter the board with Treefolk of every tribe. Shield Mage Elder, it's difficult to read on this frame. Tap 2 untap Clerics to prevent all damage a creature would deal. Elas Ilkor is more incremental life gain, and that gets him the 3rd energy counter he needs, so it might be that we see Tymna with flying here. 3-4 and Tymna turn into the right, the shadow creature we cannot block and comes in towards us. Then decides to just pull back Tymna, he only needs to hit 2 players. So he uses the energy and just further buffs the shadow creature. So that is now a 4-4. I imagine the flying will be pretty useless this game. I'm not sure there even are any shadow creatures with flying. Noteworthy that Nykthos has come down as well, he's got decent devotion to white. And we see Arcane Signet with 6 cards in hand, he's bumped himself up to 33 life. And there is a Skull Clamp without any mana to target anything. The only thing he could kill off is the Auriok champion anyway. Slash the ranks, there we go. Didn't think we'd keep hold of our board for very long. Destroy all creatures except for commanders. And an effect from the Shield Mage is put onto the Esior at least on the way out. Doing the same thing onto the Keleth. Each opponent loses a life 4 times to the Elas Ilkor. Well, we've got the 6 at least. I mean, the lands that we have may well be worth just digging especially the Tilling Treefolk. We could always dig out of the library or out of the graveyard, because the lands that we ditch we can always just grab back with this anyway. So let's see about playing ourselves a 6. And with that we can play the Bosk Banneret again. We could go for Sol Ring as well. Maybe next turn we're best getting the actual tribe into play. That's a point actually. We do have to actually play a land in order to get the Tilling Treefolk out. So if we discarded a land, in order to play that, we'd have to discard another land to Tilling Treefolk, but we'd also have to play one as well. Alright, so in that case we'll play and crack the Windswept Heath, and then we've got 2 lands to grab back with the Tilling Treefolk, and we'll just play that this turn. I was trying to discount it with Bosk Banneret, but we don't have enough lands with the 6, and we might as well make it a tap land here. So Shadowy Backstreet surveils something into the bin potentially. A Timber Protector, I definitely don't want to go into the graveyard because we might not hold on to 6. But let's definitely play ourselves the Tilling Treefolk to grab these lands back. Discard 3 Tree City. I suppose, yeah, we were going to discard as part of the cost, so we didn't necessarily need to play and crack Windswept Heath. But we'll grab both of those back anyway, getting some good use out of this Treefolk as it happens. So there's not much point swinging in over here. He can just block with this and actually kill off our Doran, so we'll take some damage in over here while we've got the chance. And now, as long as we keep 6 in play, the Tilling Treefolk is actually a good thing to block with so that we can replay it and keep grabbing lands back. Not quite a combo, but a nice interaction between these two. Bolas's Citadel, we gave him 5 less life to play with next turn at least. So immediately makes use of 3 life. Tabarax is a good cleric commander by itself. There is a Dam, goes on to the Doran. They've got Ward to consider over here, so makes sense that they'd go for Doran. Now, do we leave Doran in the bin? I think we will. We're at 17 already. I'm not likely going to do a whole lot this game, so I think we need to try and save mana where we can. So we'll leave it in there and hope that 6 can see it next turn. Eiley is a sack outlet, and Patchwork Banner is a tribal mana rock. Frontline Medic is going to give indestructible and counter things as well. They're down to 15 life here. A Doomed Necromancer, you can sacrifice it to return a creature from graveyard to the battlefield. How many permanents do they need to tap? Just tap this and sacrifice 10 non-land permanents. Alright, so has more. A Profane Prayers, going after us pretty hard here, and hopefully he's not king-making with the partner player, because he's down to 13. Cavern of Souls seems to be the first land he's made this turn. Academy Rector, that is the one that, goes for an enchantment when it dies, and Nykthos makes 7 black mana due to having Devotion of 7. So hard casts a Drana from hand. Doesn't have any means of haste at the moment, but he's going all out on this idea of creating himself a board and then hopefully being able to regain the life. Skullclamp goes on to the Academy Rector. The 3/3 swings in at us, as you would expect. Now, I'd rather block the Keleth than the Tymna. He's going to gain life either way, and we lose an extra life to Keleth, assuming it does swing in towards us, which I imagine it's going to. So they will get to gain some life and draw a card here. So ultimately the game has been a few turns faster thanks to our Toxic Deluge being countered by the Swan Song previously. But it may well have always played into the hand of the Cleric's player anyway. Yep, and just decides to throw us to the wolves and scoop it up. So if this is the one you see from Treefolk Tribal, then I apologise, but this is likely the best of a bad bunch. Our opponent probably just swings in for the victory next turn. So let's just go for Heartwood Storyteller, and we can at least afford some indestructible Timber Protector action here as well. But it's only a matter of time before our opponent gets us here. He's brought a more powerful deck than us, I think. I think Clerics are always going to win out against Treefolk for the most part. But we don't have access to our commander now either, thanks to that 6 going down upon our risk. So we'll see how long it takes him to get rid of us. In fact, he only has to deal 4 damage to us next turn, and then he can just make use of Bolas's Citadel most likely. Uses the Eiley to... I forgot he could sacrifice, the Academy Rector, so can search up any enchantment he likes. Plus counter goes on Tabarax. He can use that to gain a life, or lose a life and gain a card. and uses that to tutor out a True Conviction for Double Strike and Lifelink. And he's got a few flyers, so can probably just deal with us in combat here. This is going to give itself indestructible as well, I think. Anyway, stacks it correctly, putting Doran on the stack first. And I'll just give him whatever. Give him the Guide of Souls again. And then, yeah, everything, including itself, gets indestructible. So I'll just make blocks anyway. Might have been a longer game if the other players had decided to actually stick it out, but that's Magic Online for you, so again, apologies if this is the Treefolk game that you see, but hopefully you all got some enjoyment from it anyway. We're not likely to get good games with Treefolk on Magic Online, there's just too many faster decks on Magic Online, and Treefolk isn't exactly the best tribe in the first place anyway. It wants to rely on combat too much, and, well, combat is not the best in the format anymore either, with all the combos going around. But hopefully you all got some enjoyment from it anyway, and it gives you an idea of how Doran likes to be played. Maybe you can make use of this list at your slower kitchen table. Want to give a big thank you to the patrons for their financial support of the channel as well. You can do so yourself via the link in the description below if you would like. And I will see you all in the next one. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.